If you clicked on this video, you must be interested in learning all about Gelcoat. And that's a good thing because our family's been working with Gelcoat for generations, and I'm happy to share what we have learned in our family's boat shop. So if I may, if you're new to the channel, if I may introduce myself, my name is Joe Buskins. I'm a second generation professional boat builder, a 100-ton U.S. Coast Guard licensed professional captain. And in the summer months, we run our big 29-footer that we built in our family shop here in our charter business. And we've got a table full of product here. And we've been working really hard with our channel to make it a go-to resource for DIYers that are at home that want to learn more about fiberglass, epoxy, Gelcoat, boat building. We've got a depth of videos here on the channel to help you do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these materials and then we're going to be moving over here to some of our sample pieces. Now, if you've been following the channel and seeing what we've done the last couple days, we've actually taken a piece of marine plywood and we fiberglassed it and encapsulated it, and we used a high quality filler to fair and smooth that out. And I'm gonna break this video down. I'm actually gonna show you folks at home that are interested in spraying Gelcoat. We're gonna be applying that to this piece, and then on this piece we're gonna show what a brushed finish would look like. And then on this other side, that's kind of more of an industrial and commercial finish, we're going to be doing a rolled or textured finish, because there isn't like one scenario that is perfect for everybody. So let's just kind of basically go over a overview of the basic tools of the trade for working with Gelcoat. And again, you do not have to spend a lot of money here. You can start with an inexpensive bristle brush. If you're just doing kind of a commercial duty thing and you're just trying to get some Gelcoat on a surface, a couple bucks there. What I was doing was just knocking some of the loose hairs out of it. But you're going to need a cheap bristle brush or two in your kit anyway if you're going to do Gelcoat work, because it's good for mixing the Gelcoat up. Now here we go. We've moved up to a little Valspar. That's a little higher quality one, and that works great for giving a little smoother finish. A little more expensive, but still reachable and attainable by most people for sure. Now, a little paint roller, not a bad idea. And we have done a little trick where we have wrapped this thing in some blue tape, and you can see all the little fibers that are coming off of there. That is one way to take a fairly inexpensive roller and have it produce a higher quality result. Because I understand a lot of you folks at home may be on a bit of a budget and not wanting to spend a ton of money. Now, if you do want to spend a little bit more on your roller, Corona makes one called a glass coater that's very decent, and you can certainly upgrade to that one. But using that little trick I showed you with the tape on there will improve the quality of any of your rollers. Now, so we got brush, we got roll. If you want to go up a little higher in the food chain, you could purchase something like the Gelcoater. This is bang for the buck, is really hard to beat, and it's not your normal spray rig. This is a large tip or large diameter. It is actually a 4.8 millimeter, which is considered very large. In the past, most spray rigs maybe had a 1.5 to 2.5 millimeter, and that was considered adequate, but for small jobs. This one will deliver a lot more material, and you're looking at a price point of about 150 bucks or less. And it's even got some different tip sizes to give you some options and some range. So that is a fantastic value. Now, just for grins and giggles, and if you just kind of want to see if we're building a boat, this would be a larger output. That is a 5-gallon pressure pot, and this is actually an external mix. There's catalyst to the Gelcoat, and you spray the Gelcoat through that rig, and we can spray up to 5 gallons at a time. And that'd be used more in production type work when we're building a boat. Now, Gelcoat in its base form, white is the most popular, and this Gelcoat from Total Boat is without wax, and that's going to be something you DIYers and folks at home need to be aware of, the application and the reason for that. Generally, you're going to find Gelcoat without wax, and you're going to find Gelcoat that contains wax. Now, a lot of times, like in our family's boat shop and in bigger shops, I will just buy Gelcoat without wax, and then we usually add wax back into it as needed. Something like this Fiberglassed surface seal, or sometimes you can buy, they'll call it a sanding aid and wax solution. And that can be added in at 2, 3, 4%, and it creates a surface film on the gel coat if you want it to dry tack free. If you use gel coat without wax added into it, it's going to cure mostly. It's going to be tacky on the surface. So it's not like paint in that it dries. It actually has a chemical in it called MEKP, is going to be your activator. That is methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. Now this is not stuff you're going to want to get on your skin or in your eyes. Definitely want to wear some PPE, some nice glasses, some gloves and whatnot when you are working with it. So just remember, gel coat will stay tacky if it doesn't have wax. If you want it to dry tack free, you need to get gel coat with wax, or you can buy gel coat without wax and just add wax into it. And I'm going to be using all this stuff as we work a little bit here. So why don't I get a little bit of PPE on? As I mentioned, you're always going to want to work with some gloves when you're using. This is inexpensive latex gloves from Lowe's. So you folks at home, again, you can source that, or I will be sure to put a link below our video's description and make it available for you folks if you just want to buy what we use. Now, one little trick you can use sometimes, people are worried about having plenty of overlap there. If, say, for example, you get a little tear or nick, you can double glove. So why don't we pour a little bit of gel coat up? Now, one thing you may need in your kit at home are just some disposable wax-lined 1-quart cups, or you're going to want maybe some of these metered mixing cups to help you kind of determine how much product you are pouring out. And what we're going to do, we're just going to start with some without wax. You can see it there. That's, again, the most popular as far as a starting foundation. Now, anytime you're getting a gallon of gel coat or a quart, real good idea to agitate it completely. Stir it up a bit. And what we're going to do is, I believe we're going to pour some right in this little disposable cup. Now, I have been mixing this stuff up for years and years. And you kind of get good at eyeballing it, but as a general rule, when you're adding catalyst, this is kind of a little cheat sheet there. So you got 32 ounces, it'd be 10 to 20 cc's, cubic centimeters of MEKP, and then so on and so forth. 16 ounces would take 5 to 10 cc's, 8 ounces, 2.5 to 5. And then if you're doing very small amounts, 1 ounce would require 10 to 20 just drops of your MEKP. And that is essential. Sometimes people ask, do you always have to add catalyst to gel coat? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There's other additives you may or may not add, but you're always going to want to add some activator, some MEKP. That is a tiny amount. So that would say be 16 ounces. That'd be 8 ounces. That's even less than. So we probably only need about 3 or 4 cc's of the MEKP. Now, another little thing that's very inexpensive that if you want to get for your starter kit, I would highly recommend these little squeeze bottles. As you squeeze it, you can see the catalyst comes out. And it's not going to take an awful lot to get it activated. Now, thoroughly mixing it is another thing, because your catalyst is going to be clear. And because your catalyst is clear, it is very hard to see. It is very hard to see when you've got a good thorough mix. So generally, I would call like each one of these movements a rotation, and generally at least 100 rotations or movements there is going to be the ticket. And every now and again we'll scrape the sides really well. Good thorough mix. Now, I would love to know what you folks at home are working on. It's kind of cool to hear what kind of projects and what kind of boats. Gel coat is a big part of it. So there's a high likelihood that you're going to be doing some gel coating if you've got a restoration project. Now, a lot of times what I like to do is do this thing in a 2-pot method, because if you're, again, new to working with fiberglass, resin, gel coat, when you put a large mass in a container, it generates heat. They call that an exothermic reaction. And if you put the gel coat in a pan such as this, it is going to remain cooler and you're going to have more working time. If you mix up a large pot of this, like say a quart or 2 quarts or a gallon, there's a high probability it'll build heat and it'll go off like a rocket. And you do not want that. So what we're going to do, we've got our little roller that's been prepped, and we're going to come right on over here and start working a little bit. Maybe get a little bit of gel coat. I think I want to show you folks a base coat or a base application of just some of the white there. I know I said I was going to start with a brush, but I actually think that starting with the roller might be the ticket. And this has already been blown off and wiped down. You got a good clean surface there. And this particular piece, if you'll notice, there's a lot of texture on here. There's a lot of, I haven't really done a ton of fairing. It's not super smooth. And a lot of times when you have a surface like that, like if it's down in the bilge of a boat or in kind of an inconspicuous area, a rolled or textured surface is very forgiving. It'll kind of hide a lot of those imperfections. Now let's load a little more gel coat on there. And again, these are demonstration pieces, folks, that I built for you folks specifically just to kind of show different uses. Now, we've got a series of videos when we actually built this component here that was some of our more popular videos on the channel, and it shows you in more detail about fiberglassing over plywood and application of even like how to fiberglass in. Y'all notice we've got these little tubes that are glassed in. We call those rigging tubes. Like if you had, a bulkhead or a stringer and you need to run something through that, you can actually put a piece of PVC pipe through your fiberglass stringer or bulkhead. All right, now a lot of times gel coat's going to require more than one coat to cover completely. In my experience, it's going to need probably 2 coats and sometimes even 3 coats if you're doing it with a brush or a roller. Now, sometimes what I will do is just take your little bristle brush here. Now, the first coat is not going to look great, so don't freak out if you put the first coat on there and you don't have full coverage and it doesn't look fantastic. It usually gets better and better. But I added a little bit of gel coat in there, and sometimes what you can do to match that roller texture is just do a little bit of what some folks call stippling, stifling. My father, when I was growing up in the boat shop, y'all have heard me say this before if you follow the channel, and forgive me for repeating myself, but he called it dabbing. You're kind of doing this little dabbing motion, and if you'll notice, it'll kind of replicate the texture of the roller for you. You can just roll and then come back and add that little texture to it, and that works really, really well. When you get into prepping the surface, I may have gotten ahead of myself a little bit, but it's a good idea to use some kind of a de-waxer surface prep. This is from Total Boat. They make a good product. You can also use acetone, although acetone flashes off a lot faster and it may not do as good a job at cleaning. Now, sometimes what I will do is take your blue shop towels, which again, if you're trying to put together a gel coat kit, you're gonna need some shop towels around. And what I've done is I've put some of the de-waxer in one of these little Zep sprayers, and that can be a great way to apply. You can either apply it directly to the surface and do a wipe down, or you can apply it to your blue shop towel and wipe that surface clean and clear. Now you're going to need to give that a few minutes to evaporate, but you want a really good clean and dry surface. That is going to be crucial to applying gel coat and a quality job. Now, another little item when we start talking about temperature is fairly inexpensive is a little temperature, an infrared temperature probe. And probably not a bad idea to have a thermometer in your shop. We are right at 70 degrees, which honestly, folks, the 70s are about perfect for doing gel coat work. From low 70s to high 70s. You can go down as low as about 60 degrees and as high as about 95 degrees. Anything below 60 degrees, it's going to have trouble curing. And so that would be an instance where instead of like 1% of catalyst, you might add 2% to help it activate if the temperatures are cold. So that is another factor to remember, is gel coat is temperature sensitive. And if you think about, like with people, what's comfortable for us is probably going to be comfortable for the gel coat. Now, let's go ahead. I tell you what we're going to do. We've got another little batch here. We need a little more than we started with. So I'm glad I split that batch. I'm going to go ahead and mix up a few more cc's. We'll get that mixed up and ready to go. And I want to show you folks what just a brushed application would look like. Matter of fact, sometimes you can even do a hybrid approach where you roll it and then tip it is a good way. So you use a quality brush to smooth out the gel coat after you've gotten it on the surface. And that is a great entry point. You're only spending a few bucks, and the goal of the channel here is to help you folks out there that are maybe a little intimidated by getting into fiberglass work or just curious about what gel coat and fiberglass even is all about. We're finding there aren't a lot of people getting into the trades these days, and it's getting hard for people to find quality repairmen to help them work on their boat. It can also be expensive when you do find. Now, it's also good to know that when something is major structural damage, or you feel in you're over your head, there are professionals out there, and there's definitely a time when you guys need to consult a professional, talk to somebody, hire somebody that does this on a full-time basis. Now, that solvent wipe has dried off of there. I'm actually going to use a little bit of this material that's in the roller, and a lot of times the roll and tip method is basically you're getting some material on there, and you'll notice this is a smoother surface that we prepped and left for you folks at home, so you can kind of get an idea if you've got a little nicer finish. This is going to be the way to go for you in some cases. Now, what's nice about rolling and tipping is you generally don't have to worry about any kind of overspray being a problem. Overspray with a paint rig can be an issue, but if you roll and brush, you're going to get less fumes, you're going to get less overspray. So I'm going to get a little bit on there, and we've rolled, and you can just basically take that brush and roll out, or tip it out rather. It's a totally different look. Some people like the textured roller look. I actually kind of like the rollered and textured look myself, but it's good to know what your options are. Now again, the first coat is not going to look great, folks. A lot of times you're going to be able to kind of see through it, and you may have doubts about your gel coating ability, but don't let that stop you. Which brings up another good point. If you're new to this stuff, get a practice piece or make a sample piece, but you got to remember you don't have forever to work with this stuff. You've got, oh gosh, about 10 or 15 minutes from the time you activate this, if you've activated it properly. All right, so that is one coat. I'm going to cap the end here a little bit as well, and again try to give y'all an end result. As we progress, by the end of the video, you'll get to see the finished product and see exactly how everything is supposed to look and supposed to behave. Now, so we've got our rolled. Let's see if we can get a look here. I know we're losing light rapidly, but again, you can kind of get a side-by-side what a rolled texture looks like, and a brushed texture is going to be a little smoother. Now, when I'm talking about having time to work, folks, we've got these brushes and we've been working for 10 minutes or so now, and it's probably a good idea to go ahead and start fresh. Like, we're going to want to clean these out, clean them up Now, I typically keep a 5-gallon bucket right near where I'm working, and then a roll of shop towels. And a lot of times I will try to get as much gel coat as I can out of my brushes. And as long as I'm actively painting, you don't have to clean these to perfection. You can pretty much go down in your acetone bucket there, and you can see how quick and easy that is. Pretty much already clear. Do the same thing for our bristle brush, just a few jogs. You've got the vast majority of it. Now, I want to show you folks a little a little trick. Now, keeping a trash can handy is another really good idea. And I'm looking for something. There we go. Maybe we can go outside. When we're done with the roller, same as with resin, if it's got gel coat in it and it's heavy with it, it can cure and get hot. And you don't want that. You want to be careful. So I always like to come outside of my shop. You're probably wondering what in the world I'm doing. What am I doing with this piece of plywood? It can be tricky to pull this piece of gel coat off here. So check out this little trick, folks. Just like that. I'm just gonna kick that thing off of there, and we're gonna let that just kind of cure outside of the shop. I don't ever recommend putting it in your garbage can. You certainly wouldn't want to leave it out in the sunshine, because it's going to cure super fast. So while our other sample pieces are drying, what I want to do is set up for spray. We are using the gel coater. This one's specifically made for spraying gel coat, and I had ran a little bit of acetone through here. She's nice and clean. Let's go ahead and pour up a little bit of gel coat. I think we're going to go with some without wax, and we're probably going to do multiple coats for you folks at home. Again, your base coats, we almost always start without wax, and then only on the last coat do you add any wax to it, and or at least that's how our family has always done it, and that's kind of the way we operate here. I want to show you folks how we've done it for years. Now, one thing you can do, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. I wanted to show you folks straining the gel coat. I like to use little mixing cups, and you can actually use a little piece of just your inexpensive screen that you buy in rolls from Lowe's or Home Depot, and usually if you push it in the middle, it'll make like a little crease, and you can clamp it just like so, and then you can run your gel coat right through there. Use that as a strainer. Now this is really nice, clean, pretty gel coat. It's nice and fresh. I don't see any lumps or clumps in there. Sometimes when gel coat or resin sits around for a while, you may get some clumping in there, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the gel coat is like bad or you can't use it, but you do need to filter it or strain it. Now, if you are going to be spraying this with a spray rig that is got a smaller diameter tip, you're going to want to add, most likely, some kind of an additive. This is what our air dry coatings looks like, and a lot of people will add this up to 50% by ratio to your gel coat to help it flow out and help it dry tack free. So that is going to be the only thing. That and styrene would be the only materials you would ever use to thin out your gel coat. But this gel coat looks really nice, and I don't think we're going to have to do any kind of thinning for this stuff. I think we can go straight to catalyzing it and put it in our spray rig and get some paint. Again, we got about a fourth of a cup. We're going 3-4 cc's or so. There we go. Now, again, gel coat and fiberglass resin is a little more forgiving on your catalyst ratios than if you were to go with like an epoxy. Epoxies are going to need to be very, very specific, and I might make a video dealing with epoxies specifically to help educate everybody out there. It can be a challenge to cover every topic and all the bases and still put it in a video that's not too terribly too terribly long. Now again, even if I wanted to, like right now, I could add a splash. I could add a splash of the Duratec or the ultra clear additive. That's going to make it flow out of your spray rig a little better. And I'm going to add a little more catalyst because I added a little bit more material. You catalyze by volume. And it's important, folks, not to miss any steps or skip any steps. That's why I highly encourage if you folks could watch the videos in their entirety. That also does help making these videos. YouTube likes to see those long watch duration times or even multiple videos. Like we've got a lot of videos here on the channel that may answer another question once you finished watching this one. And that does allow us or help us to make more videos. We actively repair boats, build boats, and run our charter business. We're making these YouTube videos. It's kind of something we're just doing as we can, but the more the channel grows and the more viewers we have, the better response we have, the more of these videos we can make for everybody. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Okay, so here we go. Here we go into our gel coater. Nice and easy peasy. Now, if you guys missed the previous episode, the piece that we're about to spray, we actually fiberglassed that. We used a really nice high quality vinyl ester laminating resin from Fiberglassed Warehouse. There is a discount code, Total Boat Fiberglass Warehouse. You guys can get in touch with them if you use a Fish Bump TV discount code. There's a little money saving there for you folks. And we'll also be sure to put a description of the products we're using listed below, so that if you want to buy some of these products, that also helps support the channel. All right, so we got our spray rig. Now, normally some airflow is a real good idea. We've got some big fans here. Move a little air through the shop. Wearing a quality mask though is important. And if you're at home doing this, good PPE, definitely something you're going to want to do. That looks pretty good. Let's see. Now, one thing we've got with this rig, we're spraying at about 85 pounds. And then when we trigger, we're dropping down to about 40 or so. That works pretty good. Now with, like a lot of paints, you don't typically just do a full cover coat and get crazy. You'll notice we kind of put just a light coat on there. And I'm gonna put a little bit on and then I'm gonna let it tack or flash off a bit. But I am not at maximum capacity. Look how pretty that is. Again, that's the gel coater. They call this that's the GX. It's the GX4. If you reach out to those folks, they will help you out. And again, be sure to tell them you saw this video or this rig in use at Fish Bump TV. But you can definitely see now that the fumes have cleared, that's going to be a very flat, very smooth, very pretty surface. All right, that looks good. Now you got to remember, again, you don't want to just pile on too much on the first coat, but I'm going to go ahead. See, there's a little thinness there. Yeah, that's looking, my dad used to say beautimous. That means it looks good. Telling you folks, it used to be a real challenge to spray gel coat that was not thinned heavily. You usually had to have a very expensive spray rig to do it. Again, for less than 150 bucks, and you can get different cup sizes. You can actually get a 3.0, a 3.5, and then the 4.8, which would also allow you to spray heavy primers like Duratec high build fillers, like if you were building a boat or ferrying out like a hurricane damaged boat. I know a lot of people are interested in doing that these days. That is looking amazing. Spraying is definitely going to give you the best cosmetics, but remember, if you're going to want to spray, your body work needs to be a lot better. So if there's little ripples or imperfections on the surface, it's going to show if you've got a glossy, flat, smooth finish. The texture from the roller is going to be the most forgiving. All right, here we go again, folks. Now, there are a couple little pinholes. I can show you folks. There's going to be a couple little pinholes there. A lot of times with Gelcoat, I don't worry too much about closing up the pinholes initially, but I have a secret for doing that as well. So I believe we're good on that, but remember, you've got 10 or 15 minutes once you've activated, so you never want to leave activated Gelcoat in a spray rig. I usually like to take a clean shop towel and get the bulk of the Gelcoat out initially. Again, a little bit of acetone. Always a good idea to kind of slosh it around, and I like to blow any of the Gelcoat out of the tip if I can. Yep, you can tell we got the heavy stuff out. You can see how big of a stream that is shooting out of there. You kind of have to be used to other conventional. This one is like a spray rig on steroids, man. This thing is a beast. I love it. I'll come over here and check this out. I want to show you something interesting. We had a little bit of excess Gelcoat. You can see we've got 105 degrees. So that is the exothermic reaction I was talking about when it's curing. So we've got a mass in a cup versus if you just kind of measure the temperature around, we're at 73 degrees in just surrounding areas. So that is why you'd always want to be super careful keeping it in a mass. And then if you've left any extra, you want to set it outside the shop. It's going to create some smells and some things that are not good. So we are probably at a point where we're going to let our coat cure overnight. Now, when we pick up, which will be like this for you guys and gals at home, I'm going to show you the opposite of thinning Gelcoat. There is actually a way to thicken Gelcoat if you're wanting to do some Gelcoat repairs. And then also, just so you know what we've got coming down the pipeline, there are a few little pinholes, which that just looks amazing, but we got a few little pinholes there that I want to show you folks at home again how to remedy that. Okay folks, I realize in editing this video is running a little on the long side, so I think we're going to break it up into two parts. When we resume, we are going to show you how to thicken Gelcoat, fix some of those pinholes in our sample pieces. But I genuinely want to thank everybody that's been following the channel. If you don't mind giving us that like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. Also remember to comment, give us some suggestions and ideas on what we can do to make this the go-to resource for DIY fiberglass on YouTube. Captain Joe here, Fish Bump TV. My son Logan is my amazing cameraman, and we'll catch you folks in episode 2 of How to Gelcoat.